Agent Carter Season 2, Episodes 6 and 7, Life of the Party and Monsters. Now, I don't know why we got a 2-hour special. I honestly don't even know what comes on outside of Agent Carter, to be totally honest, so I don't know what was off or, why it was off. But it was kind of surprising to see that we got a 2-hour special. We're going to get another 2-hour event next week, so that's pretty cool. I'm assuming that's intentional, but I didn't, they didn't say anything about it being 2 hours this week, so I don't know if something just went off and it was just like, alright, well, let's just do 2 hours, or I would assume it was their plan the whole time, because they knew, they only have like a set amount of episodes, so I don't know why they did it. Maybe because of spring break or something coming up, they decided to do it this way for however they classify it or whatever, but it was pretty cool getting 2 hours worth of content, and it was an interesting 2 hours for sure, and definitely a crazy ending, and just both episodes I think were actually really good in their own right. Like, they both had like some really crazy moments. Like the first half, Whitney gets to meet with the council. She kills like, I think it was probably 4 of the members, and then she killed her husband because of course he betrayed her, which I was admittedly surprised that that happened. I knew once the guy was like, I'm sure we all know how to proceed with this, I knew that they were going to do something, but I didn't know that her husband would actually be involved the entire time. So that did actually surprise me a little bit. And I was like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure he's not going to end up making it if she gets out of this. And she does. And I didn't expect her to get out of it either. I didn't expect her to have like this new ability where she sends like the zero matter across the ground and it just absorbs people. And it never did this before until she, had this moment. But it reminded me a lot of the video game Prototype, if you guys have ever seen that. And if not, you should look it up. Unless you don't like gore, because it's pretty gory. But that's kind of how the powers are, because the character, in both games, the character can actually just simply absorb people. Like, they just smash their fist into someone and, like, rip through them, and then they, like, pull their fist back, and they, like, just turn into, like, a DNA strand and get absorbed. And that's what that reminded me of. Like, she just sends, it basically looks like ink across the ground. And people just get infected, and it, goes all the way up, and she just absorbs them. And it was kind of cool to see her have that, control over her power. And I was like, that's actually really sweet. Very, very deadly, but very awesome, because we get to see her use that power a lot more. And we even get to see her use it on Underwood, who actually shows up again, and, Carter, or Peggy, she goes and breaks her out of prison because she is the only one that she believes can actually do this. And of course that backfires, and we have, her trying to take off, but she of course gets busted by Jack, who surprisingly showed up in this episode as well. And I'm pretty sure all of this was in the first part. So he shows up. We have Jarvis with the super spy villain, which is actually very funny because when he first went in and he's like, oh, I should have a gun or something. And then he realizes that she took his wristwatch and stuff. And then they have it where you can't really hear everything they say. But the first thing he said was like, what if I had nunchucks? And he was like, when he was doing that, he was talking about nunchucks and stuff. I don't know what else the other thing was, because he did something that looked like he was shooting through somebody or something. And it was almost like a gun, but it wasn't. So there's just some really silly stuff in there. But I like that. And like, I guess the thing of him dropping on the ground was supposed to be like having like a fake cyanide tooth or whatever, which I don't know why he would think he'd need that, but I thought that was really funny. So him going on this mission was pretty cool, and him leading the mission was interesting, and they did a great job of really utilizing his wife in these 2 episodes, and I was glad that they did, because I feel like when they introduced her, I thought she was really cool. And I was like, I hope we get to see a lot more of her. So I was glad that we got that in these 2 episodes. And I'm really hoping she doesn't die, because that would really suck. Because it would of course be some good dramatic tension. And it's still dramatic tension at this point. But I'm really hoping it has a good ending. Not just for the sake of the characters, but because I think she as a character hasn't been used nearly enough. I think she should make it, to the 3rd season. But, I was really glad to see her have this interesting dynamic in these episodes where she's really, really worried about her husband, because, we have Peggy, who's not exactly able to take on these missions because of the whole accident in the last episode. So she's really worried, where it's like, Peggy isn't at 100%, and that's why she was normally okay with everything that happened. And now we have Jarvis leading a mission, and he's going with the super spy. Wilkes didn't exactly help when they first talked about it, where it was like, oh, they don't have any backup. I mean, this basically has to go perfectly. So he didn't exactly help during that first scene before they went on the mission. But I think they utilized her really well in these episodes. She was doing, she has some really great scenes with Wilkes as well, and him actually materializing, which I believe was in the second episode. So, they did a lot with them, and I thought that was actually pretty cool, them having, because seemingly they hadn't met at all, because we didn't see them interact, but I'm sure they, of course, did. And so we got to see them talk a lot in these two episodes, which I thought was actually pretty nice. And they're talking about their problems and stuff, but they make jokes about it, like, oh, look at us, like, crying over our, $300 bottles of wine and stuff like that. So it was really cool. I think they utilized her very well in these two episodes. I do hope she doesn't just end up dying, because that would really suck for multiple reasons. But mostly it's the fact that she's a new character, and I feel like she has a lot of great potential. And I feel like that it would really suck if they did it, because they already did it once with Peggy's brother, where it resulted in a very sad moment because her brother died in the past. So there was no future, it's seemingly there was potential, like, oh, she has a brother and he could come into the show. And I mentioned that in that episode review, that I kind of hated the fact that they killed him, because I thought that would have just been great for the future, episodes. But, and, like I said, they didn't show a body, so he probably still could be alive. But I do hope that they don't kill off, Mrs. Jarvis, because that would really suck. They would be underutilizing a really good character. And I think they did a good job of showing why she's such a good character in these two episodes. So I hope she does survive for sure. But, she had some really great moments with Wilkes in this one. He had some pretty good moments. Of course, he's finally materializing in this episode. But it starts off with him in like this weird space where he's kind of being called to this darkness. And so fortunately they kind of work things out, and they build this machine to kind of hold zero matter, which makes him whole. And then when Whitney tries to absorb him, he actually absorbs some of her zero matter. So now they're both solid. He also has some anger issues that result from the zero matter, because we have the scene after the mission fails and everything. He was really mad. He's just like, just kill off Underwood, and, like, you guys don't understand at all what I'm going through and stuff like that. So I don't know where that's going to lead to, but now he has more zero matter in his system, and I can only imagine that that's going to make him even darker. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I think that'll be really cool. And he got super mad, like when he was mad at Whitney after she tried to absorb him, and he reversed it on her. He like kind of broke through the thing, and he was like really pissed off. And I'm like, he's angrier right now, and it comes in its spurts, but those spurts can certainly be dangerous. We haven't seen him absorb anything just yet, but I feel like he might have that ability. If he was able to do it to Whitney, then he could probably do it to other people and, absorb them whole. And she mentions that it's probably not permanent, so it's still the same thing, because, she wasn't affected in that way, so it still could be like he needs zero matter continuously to stay solid. So, we might see it that, happen that way, where he has to absorb people to stay solid. And because at this point the zero matter is affecting his brain already, it might drive him to start killing people, even though that's not his character, but it might drive him to do that, which I think is really cool, because that's what I thought was going to happen to Whitney, is where she would lose control and become even more of a villain. But she kind of has, because there was that scene where her husband was talking to her. It was like, are you okay? She was sitting just like talking to herself, and I believe she was saying something like, it's my fault, or something like that. So she is kind of losing it, but she's not losing it like Wilkes is. Like, he's being sucked to like this other weird dimension almost, and visually everything's different, and there's just like this black space that may or may not be a figure once he decides to walk towards it. So he's being affected much differently than she is, even though she's getting angry. She seems to definitely have a lot of her own control. He kind of just has spurts and stuff at random. So I don't know, I feel like that could lead to him going down a much darker path than he already is. And he's already being taken by Whitney and the other guy, I forgot his name, is like Manfredi, I believe his last name is. So he, of course, shows up again, and so they're leaving. And he was going to shoot Mrs. Jarvis, and he doesn't because Whitney's like, oh, we're not monsters. But as soon as she knew, like, oh, they're almost here, it's like, well, I guess I can slow him down. And so she decides to shoot her anyway. She doesn't kill her, but she could kill her because, she shot her in the stomach. But I thought that was actually an interesting little scene. She's like, no, we're not monsters. And I guess if Peggy and Jarvis weren't about to show up right there, she would have never pulled that trigger. And I do find that very interesting. It shows she has quite a bit of control, and she had a really good speech when she was talking to Wilkes. And it's like, I kind of want people that are, you know, basically talked down to have better opportunities, like people of color and women and stuff like that. And I was like, she has an interesting idea, but she's the villain and she's going about it in a very odd way because what she wants is ultimate power. It's not like, oh, I just want to help everyone. She wants ultimate power to kill anyone that won't see her way of reasoning. So it's a very visceral way to get a good result, and I think that's pretty interesting. It was kind of cool though. I was like, man, she kind of pulled out the idea of why Wilkes was there, why the female scientist was there. I can't remember her name, unfortunately, but it's like, both of you were chosen because you're a man of color and she was a woman, so you guys are both deemed to be expendable and stuff like that. And it's like, man, she has like this really good idea because up until that point it was kind of just like, well, she just wants to recreate the zero matter experiment simply to be in control. And then we get like kind of a little bit of background as to why she wants to be in control, and it's to help people that were kind of shut down, which really works for her backstory because we get to see that when she was a kid and why, what her mother told her, like, this is the only, your face is the only thing that'll get you anywhere, and you could never be like a scientist or anything like that because you're a woman and stuff like that. And I thought it was great that that kind of came up again. And I love the fact when she first walked into the, I guess, into the lab, it just showed her intelligence, which they constantly do. But it was really cool because she was seeing all this stuff she'd never seen, and it was just like, oh, there's this and that's like, oh, is he building this? He's a certified genius. And all she had to do was look at the schematics, and it's like she knew exactly what was happening. And I was like, that's what I like about her character, is that despite her superpower as a villain, she is a pure genius, and I really love that about her character. And she can make certain stuff happen, and I think we're getting closer to seeing her utilize more of that because we're getting really close to the experiment. Based on the promo, they're actually in the location, and they're going to set off the experiment within the next 2 episodes, which I'm very excited to see because I didn't think they'd get there so quickly. But I'm really excited for that, so that should be really fun. We have a lot of other interesting things happening, like Jack kind of realizing exactly what's going on with, the people that he's working with now. Like, the company that he's keeping isn't exactly the greatest anymore, and some really weird stuff is going on. So I don't know if he's going to really turn on Peggy, because not just because she has the story about him actually killing those people wrongly, even though they were about to surrender. I think it's really gonna end up being, at least within the next 2 episodes, I think he's gonna finally get something, because he already had his suspicions, but it seemed like he kind of ignored that because he watched the tape, and then he lied to the guy after once he gave it to him, and he of course has the newspaper, still seemingly ignoring that information. He's still, I mean, it's only been a couple episodes, and obviously he's doing some important stuff. Like, his storyline is fairly crucial as to what may or may not happen. But of course, with him being, he's not even as important as Sousa, because Sousa's like one of the love interests now. So Jack kind of has just like his moments a little bit, and I'm wondering if he's really gonna be bad, or if they're gonna have like that final moment where he's like, all right, maybe he'll do it when he's confronting Peggy, like, look, you were totally right. I saw the newspaper thing. I watched the tape in the beginning before, anything was even official, he already had his suspicions clearly. So I feel like there's got to be something within these next two episodes. Hopefully, with the experiment being started up in the next two, something's got to happen. Or maybe after that, because he does leave by the end of these two episodes. He takes a flight. Or maybe he doesn't, because I believe he was supposed to take it in the morning of the second episode. But that could have been... It could have been the first one, so I could be wrong. I don't really remember. But... I think it was the first one, so I think he is officially gone back to New York. So he might not show up in the next two episodes, but there's got to be something before the show ends where he kind of brings in the cavalry and decides to help them out. But he had some interesting moments. Him and Jarvis kind of having the little quips back and forth. And I love the way that he ended it, where it was an insult like, oh, you're some dude's butler, you wash his underwear or whatever. And I guess it's because he wasn't so specific in insulting Jarvis. He's just like, obviously, like, I knew that. Like, I'm not an idiot. I thought that was actually really funny. Like, that whole scene, when they first started the mission, was really funny. And Jarvis has to deal with this, like, crazy super spy running off and stuff. And when she sees Jack, it's like, oh, maybe I should blow this whole mission wide open for you guys. And when she went to talk to him and Jarvis just, like, ran behind him, like, scooted her off screen, I really loved that one. That was really funny. But I like these two episodes. They were really good. We got some really great content out of both episodes, I think. I mean, we got the crazy show of force from Whitney in the first half. And, some of the extra stuff going on with Jack and everything. And Dottie, that's her first name. And Dottie getting captured and all that extra stuff. And then the second half, we have just... Whitney getting so much closer to the truth, and then, of course, shooting Mrs. Jarvis, taking Wilkes, who is now solid, at least for a longer period of time, since he's absorbed so much from Whitney, and then possibly getting evil because of that, because it already affected him in a negative way to begin with. So, there's a lot happening, and I'm actually really looking forward to it. I think these were two really good episodes. They certainly work better as a whole. I think if they were just separate, they'd still be really fun episodes. But being able to watch them all in a row, or both of them in order, I think actually really benefited, because it was like a really solid 2 hours once it was all kind of mashed together, because it really was kind of a part one and part two sort of deal, because we have the ending of a failed mission and we still have that tether to Dottie as like the tie between both episodes, where the second mission was trying to figure out where the heck is everybody pretty much. So we get to see the failed mission, and then we get the aftermath of the failed mission right after. So it made for a really good two episodes put together. So I think that definitely helped it. But even on their own, definitely really really good separate episodes as well, because of the stuff that happened with Whitney taking over the council and everything like that. And then we have, the second half and her sneaking into the house, Wilkes being solid and being kidnapped, Mrs. Jarvis being shot. That's where they talk about having, I believe Jarvis put it like 2 quality suitors or something like that. He was like, you went from famine to feast in terms of quality suitors and stuff. And I thought that was a funny way to put it. But we now have this idea of Peggy having to choose between two guys, because Wilkes instantly went right for the kiss. And I forgot that Sousa wasn't there, because I was like, I can't remember if he's in this scene or not, but he wasn't, so it kind of adds to the sort of idea that she can have a choice, really. But it was a fun episode. I don't know what she's going to choose as far as relationship stuff. Honestly, this is one of the few shows where I'm really curious who she ends up with, because with Captain America Winter Soldier, she's in that movie and she's in the hospital and she's older, and so we know that she like has kids and has grandkids and stuff like that. So I am super curious who she ends up with, just because we've seen her in the future. It's weird because it's like I know that she has that, because the movies are set in the present and this is in the past, but it's not just like a random show in the past. It's like, no, this actually ties in with stuff that is meant to exist in like 2016 and stuff like that. So for some reason that makes me really curious. Like, I wonder who she ended up with, because I know she lives and all this extra stuff happens in between, but we don't know with who. So it just makes me really curious for whatever reason who she'll end up with. And it might not even happen this season. She might end up with no one still by the end of this season. But either way, I think this was a solid 2 hour chunk of episodes. I think they'd be good separate, but they were definitely great together. I'm really excited for the next two, with them actually getting to the location, which means they have everything they need. Whitney has all the stuff she wants for her, and to recreate the initial experiment. So I'm really excited for that. But of course, I want to know what you guys thought about these two episodes. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I want to know what you guys think is going to happen with Wilkes, because out of everything that's happened, I'm sure Jack will realize the truth. I'm sure Mrs. Jarvis will survive. But I just don't know if Wilkes will survive as a hero, or if he'll get corrupted and become a villain, or if he'll survive and at all, if he's not taken by whatever this weird darkness is. So I want to know your expectations for that, and speculations, and what you thought about this nice little 2 hour event in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.